before opening day, as Rizzo will likely head to free agency after the season. The 2021 NBA draft will be July 29th, according to The Athletic.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time for the Rundown with Rob Sanders.
Well, we're waiting.
Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. As always, we've got a lot of things to get to. Alabama finally exposed. And I know people get mad when I say that, but that's kind of what happened. I said on this show, when Alabama had a game where they did not shoot well from three-point land, they would end up falling down the tubes, and that is what happened. So, yeah, dealing with that today. The Elite Eight matchups are tonight. We'll have the setup for you on those games. Some interesting teams still in the mix, including the Pac-12, making everyone on the East Coast look stupid. Yes, because none of us on the East Coast thought that the Pac-12 was worth a damn. And what happened? The Pac-12 ended up with 4? Going into last night's matchup with Southern Cal and Oregon, they had 4 of the 9 teams left in the tournament. So the Pac-12 has done a very good job representing themselves. They've still got, 3 of the Elite Eight? Southern Cal, UCLA, Oregon State. That, ladies and gentlemen, is really good. Also today on the program, the list returns today. The top 5 wide receivers. If I were drafting wide receivers in this year's NFL draft, who I would take, that will be in the list this afternoon. So stick around for that. Also, we have several other little things we're going to get into. There is a group that wants to move the Masters. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you follow my blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com, just look for it there. I also posted it on the Fox Sports Radio 1400 Facebook page, which you should be following, by the way. Yeah, you make sure you do that, because the show, by the way, streams live over there. And you should definitely be following the show over there. I had the info up yesterday with the group that wants the Masters moved out of Augusta. That sounds like on what planet is that going to happen? But we'll get into that later on. But I have to start with new accusations against Deshaun Watson. It's now up to 19 women that have now formally accused the Houston Texans quarterback of sexual assault. Now, Watson and his representatives have obviously said, hey, none of this happened at all. But he may be trying to make some of these cases go away. I've got the full story up on the blog page there, which means you can read along. And some people like to read things. And of course, my blogging schedule is weird, man. I write when I can. And this story came up and I was able to put it together. But ESPN's Sarah Barshop reviewed the latest suits that were filed. One of them accuses Watson of trying to cover his tracks and work out settlement with his alleged victims. The lawsuit claims Watson has been deleting old Instagram messages and has reached out to women who have provided him massages in an attempt to reach settlements. The tweet from Sarah Barshop says, one of the lawsuits filed on Sunday night reads, as a result of the repeated lawsuits against him, Watson is deleting Instagram messages and contacting those who formerly provided him massages as they try to settle. One of the women says Watson texted her before the massage and said, quote, I even have an NDA. I have therapists signed too. NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. Basically, you sign this before we do anything and you agree to keep your mouth shut. That's what an NDA is. So Tony Busby, the lawyer representing all the victims, said last week that Watson made those non-disclosure agreements. Now, what's interesting about this is he's trying to settle with some of these victims, meaning that, all right, he is at a spot where maybe he can't prove that nothing happened, but they can't prove that anything did. It's not really necessarily an admission of guilt. Watson's agent has publicly accused at least one of the victims of lying to gain money. His attorney, Rusty Harden, says the quarterback is a victim of a blackmail attempt in at least one of the cases. So the story gets bigger and worse, it seems like, for Deshaun Watson. Now, I want to make sure that I put this out there, and I've said this from the beginning. I wasn't in one of those rooms doing the massage or whatever. I wasn't watching. Most people weren't there. It's between Watson and the people that were doing the massages. So we have to go by that. But the other interesting part to this is that Watson is now allegedly had the non-disclosure agreements and also is deleting messages on his Instagram and is looking to pay some of these people off. That, my friends, doesn't sound really good. So I want to get your thoughts on the Deshaun Watson stuff. It seems like every day we have something. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832. To be completely honest with you, I was kind of shocked a little bit that Watson didn't try to settle with a lot of these women out of court anyway. I'm not trying to say, hey, Watson did any of this stuff, but the reality is to keep yourself from being drugged through court with all of this, it's probably easier just to pay to get out of it. And I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that that's the way that I thought that he would go. The thought that it's gone this far, and just now we're hearing, hey, he's trying to clean up his Instagram. What are you cleaning up your Instagram from, sir? What did you put out on Instagram that you don't want people to see? Those are questions that I want answered now. Because it's going to help or hurt Watson in the public eye. Whatever you put out there online, man, whatever it is, someone's going to get it eventually, and they're going to have the capability of doing something with it. But Watson, that's the big thing. When you hear deleting Instagram messages, NDA stuff, and trying to pay people off, not a good look. Out to the phones, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join the rundown. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Rob. It's Bobby and Casey. How are you?
Hey, Bobby. How are you?
Very good. Two important things in college football. The death of Howard Schnellenberger at 87.
Yes, sir. An innovator in his time. Yeah.
Yep. But one thing I do want to say, though, Jim Kelly, O.J. Anderson, who played for the Giants, were recruited by Lou Saban, which is a distant relative of Nick Saban. And Howard Schnellenberger he improved on the early recruiting when he got there in 79 that led to the championship in 1983, me being a Miami native, to have lived and seen all that.
Yeah.
Just FYI, great gentleman. And I was reading on his Wikipedia bio, he stopped smoking the pipe because he did have one son, Stephen, who died of cancer.
Yeah, that's a sad stuff, man, when someone passes away.
And Stephen passed away at 48. Howard Schnellenberger was 87.
Mm-hmm.
He had a winning record at Florida Atlantic, Miami, and at Louisville, but he was 5-1 in Oklahoma. And he took over Oklahoma after all the success Barry Switzer had.
Right.
But also, I want to state that Barry Alvarez also resigned, stepped down as the athletic director of Wisconsin.
That's good.
But
That's
also
true. Dan
Radakovich for Clemson is being named. Well, one of the top candidates is the new successor of the Pac-12 commissioner.
Yeah, Bobby,
that was on Twitter.
I've got that info out. I was going to put that out later on, but you're right about Coach Schnellenberger, man. That's a sad story, man.
Yeah, but the thing is, he lived a long life. He was truly a gentleman, and he essentially is probably compared to what Jimmy Johnson, the thuggery he allowed, the whole for on the people that are too young, the Catholics versus convicts.
Right, yeah.
He was the total polar opposite of the thuggery that Jimmy Johnson allowed.
Yes.
Now, Coach Schnellenberger is a perfect gentleman, as far as I know. I wish I would have met him, but the day I went to a coach's clinic at I forget the name of the hotel, right at 36th Street in Lejeune and
Right.
Miami by the airport.
Right.
He had a helmet underneath a handkerchief, and he pulled it up. The media was there. That was the first helmet for the Florida Atlantic University Owls
Yeah,
in Boca Raton that he had started from the beginning. And that's where he passed away, because he had moved to Boca Raton, which is a nice area to retire in.
very good point,
That's between Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. Anybody doesn't know where it is on the map. Very nice area.
I'd
So
like
have
to
a good
go
day,
to
Rob.
Florida.
Thank you. Let me talk a little college football here in March.
Appreciate
Take care.
it, buddy. All right, there you go. Bobby from KC with some good info there on Coach Schnellenberger. And we were going to talk about that later on in our information segment later on. But I got to get to some of these comments about Deshaun Watson. Michael Stroud says online, keyword there is allegedly. It's still she said he tried to pay me off. You're exactly right. Also, Miyagi Fang Karate says on YouTube, as a fellow Clemson fan, I didn't see this coming from him, but money changes you. And yeah, that's important too. But I think the other part of it too, and getting back to what Michael said, Michael's got a very valid point here. All Deshaun Watson can do is come out and say, hey, I didn't do this. The women come out with, the actual story part of it. All Watson can say is, no, I didn't do this. So, and it's not a question, by the way, of what you can believe or what you can't believe. It's a question. And by the way, this isn't a criminal case as of right now. There are no criminal charges. All of this is just a civil type thing. Now, obviously there's been, there's the story of Watson's attorney saying, hey, the one woman wanted $30,000 and all of that. So we have that in the mix too there. But it is a he said, she said thing, but there just seems to be more and more cases piling up. And now you have they say that they have text messages of Watson saying, hey, I've got an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Wow. It's, if they have the text messages from Watson that say that, then that's interesting too. Lisa with an interesting point online. I don't think the NDA is a big deal. Plenty of athletes and rich people require them to help maintain some privacy. Yeah. And, and a lot of times they need it, especially if you're coming into an athlete's home and his family's there and, you want some level of privacy. And I completely get that. So that makes some sense. But the deleting Instagram post, allegedly, and trying to pay some of these women off, not a good look there for Deshaun Watson. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on The Rundown. You can also respond on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. If you were in Deshaun Watson's corner now, what would you do? I mean, to me, there's a good portion of me that says, hey, if I didn't do any of this, I'm going to come out fighting. And every single time someone says something, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with them. That's kind of the route that I would go. But then again, I'm not Deshaun Watson. Out to the phones we go. And welcome into The Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, it's Ray. I know the Deshaun thing's real topical right now, and I hope for the best for him. But I was just wondering, have you heard anything on the Frank Martin situation?
No, I mean, I've heard that a lot of political leaders have rallied behind Coach Martin, and they want him to maintain his job at South Carolina. And I've got that on the list to talk about today too. I'm at the point now where it's like I remember the tweet from, I think it was from Mike Yuva at what was it, Watch Fox, talking about hopefully someone scoops up Frank Martin so that South Carolina can avoid the buyout. What kind of mess is that? I mean, let's make sure that we understand this, okay? Yes, Frank Martin's had a couple of crummy seasons, but he led your basketball program the farthest that it's ever been in the NCAA tournament, and now you're hoping that someone will scoop him up so you don't have to pay a buyout. If that is not the most stupid thing I've ever heard in my life, I mean, I'm waiting. I'm sure dumb things will come after that, but that is dumb if that's what's supposedly going on.
Well, Rob, I'll say this from an administrative point of view, whether they're retaining Frank or they're not retaining Frank, I don't think this could have been handled any worse. I don't think.
And let's be honest, this hasn't been the best of years for the USC administration down there. We had the story up on the blog page where they forgot to sign Muschamp's contract when he did the reduction in the buyout. They just forgot to sign it. How do you blow off signing something that's going to save you millions of dollars? And that's on the administration office. So, I mean, they don't have the absolute best record of handling things down there. And by the way, let's just take all of that contract stuff and throw it out the window for a minute. Let's just say, all right, they can pay the contract, they can pay the buyout, whatever. The longer you wait, the least attractive your job becomes. A lot of these other universities are already hiring people. Indiana hired Coach Woodson. You're running out of options. So who are you going to get if you don't allow Frank Martin to come back? You're shooting the program in the foot again. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm with you, Rob, and I'll get off, but I'm like you. I think, and I wasn't necessarily in a Frank camp, but I think the way this has gone, you almost have to retain him. And I'll tell you, the longer they wait, I mean, they're killing the program, regardless of the coaches. I mean, as far as prospective recruits, their parents,
right?
The national optics of this is just absolutely horrible.
Well, let me put this out there too. If they decide to get rid of Frank Martin, he will be coaching somewhere else pretty quickly, unless he decides, you know what, I'm going to go and be a commentator somewhere else. Frank Martin will not be without a job for a very long period of time. He's respected across the country, except for the eyes of, I guess, some Gamecock fans and some administrators that are upset over a season where he caught COVID twice. That's kind of where I'm at with all of this, man. It just doesn't make any sense. And what happens if Frank Martin's like, you know what? I don't need this level of disrespect. Look at those banners that are hanging in the rafters right there. That Final Four banner, I coached that team. And you're going to question me after that, and I caught COVID twice? I mean, what if he just decides, you know what? I'm going to walk away from this. See you later. Then what?
Yeah, it's not a good optic, and it's just another. Unfortunately, I'm a Gamecock, and I've suffered with them for decades, and it's just another long line of head scratchers, I guess, Rob. But thanks for letting me talk, Rob.
Appreciate it, brother, and thanks for calling the program. You're also welcome to respond to that at 803-978-1832. I'm at the juncture now where I believe that athletic administration should have term limits like they should have in Congress. You do 8 years and then move on. You need new blood in there all the time, in my opinion. That would just make the most sense. It's really hard for me to sit here and say, hey, they're worried about money when they couldn't get the people together to deal with the contract that Muschamp had when he lowered his buyout to get another coach. But the whole thing of, hey, we're waiting for someone to scoop up Frank Martin. Are you really? Are you really? That's what you're doing? You're down there hoping somebody's going to scoop up Frank Martin? Okay. It's going to come back to bite you. It really, really is. Someone as respected as Coach Martin, too. And I know people are like, well, the one Final Four run was so long ago. What exactly do you expect from this Gamecock basketball program? This is not North Carolina. It's South Carolina. And I know people don't like to hear that, but that's the absolute truth. Recruiting here is a little bit harder. You got to get the in-state guys, and you got to get them to a point where they're developed. And then you can get other people to come in after that. But to sit here and just say, we're waiting on somebody to scoop up Frank Martin, that's absolutely shameful. We'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on The Rundown this afternoon. you want to talk about that or the stuff with Deshaun Watson, we'll be happy to take those calls. And whatever else you got with you this afternoon, here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. What up, y'all? Hey, I appreciate you guys stepping in over there. I know you Gamecock fans probably get upset with me with all that, but my goodness, man. Good to see you over there, Real Big Lee. Miyagi Fang Karate. That's a great screen name, by the way. Shout out to USC Insider and Lisa, the lady who's after my heart, my favorite grandma. Shout out to her granddaughter getting accepted to Clemson. Outstanding. Some good stuff there. I agree on the NDA thing. Kind of a mess. You know, Brad Brownell, someone tried to lay into me on Brad Brownell the other day, and here's the thing that bothered me with that. They're like, he's the all-time winning coach at Clemson. But then they hit me with this stat, and it's like, you realize in the history of the NCAA tournament, Clemson's only been 13 times. When you stop and think about that, it's like, okay, terrific. Whatever you need to go with there. I'm kind of jacked for this NASCAR thing today on the dirt. Kind of interesting. Are you guys jacked up about the NASCAR at the on the dirt? That's kind of interesting, right? Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world in the iHeart Radio app. One other story I wanted to get out here today. We're going to talk about my 5 top wide receivers heading into the NFL draft here shortly. I've got another story, though, that's kind of interesting. You know, there was a controversial voting law recently passed by the state of Georgia. Multiple civil rights groups have called for a boycott of Georgia-based companies such as Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, and others. Some are now calling for the Masters to move as a show of solidarity with the civil rights movement. So before we get into this, I want to make sure we put this out there. We're not talking about the Georgia voting law because that's, first of all, that's in Georgia. They're a state away from us. If you're listening to us in Georgia and you want to talk about that, that's fine, I guess. But in the end, I don't want to make this about the politics of it. This is about the people that are saying the NBJC, National Black Justice Coalition, they're saying that they're calling for the PGA Tour and the Masters to essentially put their money where their mouth is. They've asked that the golf major speak out in opposition to the laws and take decisive action. Now, here's the thing that I have with that. You're asking Augusta National and the PGA to basically agree with your political beliefs. So I don't necessarily understand that. Don't necessarily understand that. My big thing with this is that I think this is all a glitz glamour type thing where, yes, they're going after the Masters, but I'm sure there are people there that have told them, yes, this is the Masters. It is owned by Augusta National, and they have a history of not really caring what people think. If you go back to, what was it, the national women's stuff that they were dealing with, where they were being leaned on to have female members. And they just, people started boycotting the sponsors for the tournament. And they just came out and said, hey, guess what? We'll just have the Masters without any sponsors. And they did it, and they didn't miss a beat. And you know what? CBS, ESPN, whoever will still broadcast the Masters. Now, if they go after the PGA and they tell the PGA, we don't want you to make this an event where it's a major. The PGA, even if, let's say that they bend to this, which I don't know at this juncture if that would happen, but if they bent to this, then the Masters is still going to have their tournament. It's still going to be about the same time. And people are, the best golfers in the world are still going to line up to play. Simple as that. So the point of all of this is that this isn't the right way to get your message out, in my opinion. It's just silly. But that's what they want. They want Augusta National and the PGA. This is the quote from the NBJC. The PGA Tour and Masters Tournament have both made commitments to help diversify golf and address racial inequities in this country. And we expect them to not only speak out against Georgia's new racist voter suppression law, but to also take action. To that end, the National Black Justice Coalition is calling on the PGA Tour and Masters Tournament to pull the upcoming championship event from the Augusta National Golf Course. Professional golfers should refuse to play in Georgia until the racist voter suppression law is repealed. So they're basically calling on golfers to not play. And if a golfer decides, hey, I don't want to go to Georgia because I don't want my likeness there, because I don't want people to think that I'm supportive of the Georgia election laws, then that's on the golfer. That's his choice as an American. He can do that. Okay. And maybe the Masters will lose some luster if you have certain players that decide, hey, I'm not going to play. Maybe. But to call on the PGA and Augusta to move the tournament out of Augusta is just silly. It's just silly. And I don't understand how that's going to get your point across. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Jimmy helping me out. Martha Burke was the person that tried to protest the lack of women's membership. Yeah, they set her up at basically a parking lot. I think it was a mile away from the course with her folks because she couldn't get on the course because it's a private course. And they did the show. They did the tournament without sponsors. That's what will happen again. Augusta National does not care. They're going to put on their tournament the way that they want because they are a private business or a private entity, a private club, and they don't care about your politics. They care about their champion. They care about their course. They care about their tournament. And you're not going to move the Masters from Augusta. It's an absolute pipe dream. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you want to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. If you would like to join us on the show for that, we'll be happy to take your call. And I've had some good back and forth on my Facebook page about it. And some of the comments made sense. They really did. Some of them not so much. Out to the phones we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown.
What would you do?
What would I do for what, sir?
Since you said it's a pipe dream, what would you do? What would you? What are your suggestions?
My suggestions for what, sir?
for the Masters. You called it a pipe dream.
It's a pipe dream to have them move it. Yes.
Yeah. So what are your suggestions?
I think that if I'm the chairman of the Augusta National Golf Club, I will submit a message saying we are a private club and we don't get into politics, and I would move on and I would have my tournament just like we did when the women tried to protest 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay. The Masters at one point was dealt with racism too. But I understand what you're saying.
You're absolutely right. But I'm just saying, get out of that conversation and say, look, we're not going to get into the politics of it. We are a private golf course. We have our tournament, and we're going to have it here as tradition states that we normally do. And I wouldn't try to get myself into a political fight with anyone being a private organization.
Too bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the call here on the rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. And it's not about racism. It's just about being a private organization. When you build something like that and you're a private club, that's just part of the way things are. Now, you don't have to support it either. If you don't like what Augusta National is doing, you don't have to support it. You know, people forget. I remember last year when we had all these folks talking about the Last Dance with Michael Jordan. They did the whole thing going through Michael Jordan's career, and they asked Michael Jordan about politics, and they were talking about, hey, support this representative in North Carolina, and he basically came out and did essentially the same thing, and he said, you know, Republicans buy shoes too. That's essentially what the Nationals should do. Don't get into the politics of it. I don't get it. Why would you jump into the politics of that if you're a private club? All that does is bring something to your club that you may not want to deal with. You're a private organization, stay that way. I give them the Michael Jordan treatment. We're going to do the best that we can for our brand and go from there and try to be appealing to everyone. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon. We'll talk about that, the stuff with Deshaun Watson, all kinds of stuff here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Look, that guy, I heard what he said at the end, and what was it he said? He said, too bad. What is too bad about that? What is too bad about saying, hey, I own a private club. I'm not trying to run stuff. I mean, I don't get that. I don't get that at all, man. What a mess. And see, I don't want that guy thinking that I'm not like my whole thing with the voting, by the way, is that everybody gets the right to vote. If you were born in this country, you get a right to vote, just like everybody else. Yeah. I don't think I was rude to him. I was just honest. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us here on the program. We're talking a little bit about the stuff with Augusta National. And the caller asked me what I would do. And I mean, I stand by that. We're a private club. We're not doing things down in the capital of Georgia. That's not what we're doing. Our job is to put on a good tournament here and to keep our members happy. Now, if the membership of Augusta, they got together and they went to the head of the club and said, you know what, we want to take a stand against this, or we want to support it, whatever. Then it's my job as the commissioner to do that. But overall, I'm not dipping my toe into that. There's no win. It's a no-win situation for anyone. It really is. But we'll take your calls on that 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. Here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us here today. If you would like to join in with us on that, we also started talking about Deshaun Watson a little bit there. It's now up to 19 women that have come out with accusations saying that Watson, alleging sexual assault by Deshaun Watson. Now we have the thing with, hey, apparently he is trying to pay off some of these folks to make some of this go away, deleting Instagram messages. What an absolute every time I hear or see something about Deshaun Watson come up in my feed, this is what I hear. Yeah.
Like sand through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
I go back to being on my grandma's floor, sitting on the floor in the summertime when it was too hot because she didn't want us outside getting a heat stroke down in Charleston. Sitting on her there watching Days of Our Lives and some of the stories that came through there. That's kind of what we're dealing with here. And it's just a mess with the Deshaun Watson stuff. Tom with an interesting point here, and he's right. What NFL team would take that baggage right now? You think that there's not going to be a section of people that are going to come out and protest against Deshaun Watson? Wherever, if he's in Houston, wherever. Deshaun Watson is going to end up with folks that are going to be protesting against him. And by the way, the NFL supposedly is investigating into this. If they find one shred of anything that has any guilt for Deshaun Watson, then look for they may put him on that list where he's not even able to compete at all. And he may end up getting to a point where Houston, if he's not able to even be on site, that could happen too. He could get, I think it's the commissioner's non-disclosure list or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of it. But he can get put on that list and he can't play. They'll pay him, but he can't play. I mean, there's that too. It's just an absolute mess. So we'll take calls on that. We'll take calls on the stuff with Augusta National, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Blake says Houston wanted out bad. They knew before the public did. Okay. Tom says Houston should have traded him then them when they had the chance. Maybe that's why he wanted out of Houston. I don't know about that. Don't know about that at all. In today's environment, though, with social media and everything where tons of people have a voice now, you can tweet out anything, and eventually, if it catches fire, everyone will see it, and it can be damaging. It really can. In today's environment, trust me, there will be people that will be upset. Even if if Watson's not completely cleared, they'll still be there to protest. May not be hundreds and thousands of people, but there'll still be people there to protest. And they'll have folks that'll come down and film it. And they'll look at it from the perspective of, these are the Watson protesters. It may be 12 people, but those 12 people will look really big on everybody's phone when they look later on. Protesters at Deshaun Watson's first game. There you go. Someone said he gets the Ray Rice treatment 3.0. Fireball says Ray Rice punched his chick on an elevator. Big difference. It was on camera. But you know what, though? I'm not defending Ray Rice, but we live in a land of second chances. He went to therapy for that, and he married the woman. She felt that he'd remedied the situation enough where he married her. I understand a suspension, but completely blackballing him from the league, I never understood that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you want to join us here on the rundown this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Also coming up today at 4 o'clock, Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports. He will join you here for Clemson Sports Talk. Of course, you can check his show out every day from 4 to 6. But, yeah, be sure to check him out. We had some issues on Friday with some audio stuff, but he was able to knock it out. But he'll be in today at 4 o'clock if you want to take part in his show. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Blake says that he will not be playing for Houston this year. You never know, man. You never know. I have no clue. One other note from the NFL, Trevor Lawrence is expected to be the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. And he said, hey, I don't want to go to Houston. Or not Houston. Why am I thinking Houston? I got Deshaun Watson on the brain. I don't want to go to Cleveland for the NFL draft. So the projected number 1 overall pick is not going to go into the draft. He's going to watch it at Clemson with his family and friends. Normally I would be like, but last year where the draft was completely virtual, does that really matter? They're not going to have a lot of folks there at the draft anyway. So in the grand scheme of things, when you really think about it, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But it's interesting. The number 1 pick in the draft isn't going to the, and it really is a dog and pony show. Hey, we're going to take you from here to there and everywhere else. Someone did tweet at me yesterday when I put that out there. Who wants to go to Cleveland in April? That's a valid point. I'm picking at Cleveland. I'm sure it's nice and wonderful up there. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon. We'll take a quick break when we come back. Final segment of the show. My top 5 wide receivers going in the NFL draft. I'll have that for you in just a moment. You're listening to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Are you talking about Clowney would never do that? Different times, my friend. Different times. I don't think Manning's going to Clemson. He's going to Alabama. He's not going to Tennessee. I love, hey, he's going to Tennessee. My goodness. Why would he do that? Got my list opener here. I haven't used this in a while. Let's see if I can find it. Nope. Is it on the wall? Where is it? I can't find my music, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where I put it. Reset window positions. There we go.
Every weekday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Yes.
It's time for the list.
I haven't done the list in a while. I used to write like a list every day. And the list generally is my top 5 of something. Is basically what the list boils down to. Today's list, by the way, is my top 5 wide receivers. If I were picking in the NFL draft, what I would do is I would pick these 5. Now, granted, you're going to have some that people that are going to look at it from the perspective of, you know, this guy will match that team, this guy will match this team, etc. I'm just saying if I had to line them up and I had to pick my top 5, this is the 5 that I would go with. And of course, we'll start with
number 5.
Number 5 on the list this afternoon. Top 5 wide receivers. When I look at it, number 5 for me is it's not really that far-fetched. There are some Alabama guys in the top 5. The more and more you watch them, they are very, very impressive. But number 5 for me has to come from, as I'm scrolling through my notes, Elijah Moore from Ole Miss. This guy ran he's 5'9", 184 pounds, ran a 4.39 40 or 4.34 40. Blazing speed. All right. And I think that, yes, he is short, but I think that in today's NFL, he'll have the opportunity to make some plays. If they get him in space, look out. Look out. I think he is that special.
Number 4.
Number 4 on the list, I'm going to go with the young man from from Minnesota, Rashod Bateman, 6'2", 210 pounds. People say he's like Miles Austin. And I think that PJ Fleck did a good job developing him up there, but I like this guy. He's a very kind of a big target, 6'2", 210, and he can get after it. Makes a good X receiver. A very solid pick there at number 4. And then we move along.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me is Jalen Waddle from Alabama, 5'10", 182 pounds. People compare him to several different receivers, but mostly they compare him to Joey Galloway. Now, at Alabama, you can make the argument that, hey, he had an all-star team there and things like that, and that's kind of one of the things against him. 5'10", 182 pounds. I still think, though, that he is a big-time playmaker and can do a lot of things for you, even though he's not the tallest guy in the world.
Number 2.
Number 2 is Devontae Smith from Alabama. I've seen him compared to Keenan McCardell. He's 6 foot tall, 172 pounds. I think this listing says 172. Some people say he's 178 pounds. Either way, he's a very slender guy. But when you watch him, I mean, he won the Heisman Trophy. He always seemed to be open. And that's a talent in its own, by the way. Now, you can make the argument that, hey, they put these he had a great system with Sarkisian, had a great quarterback, and, all of that. And I'm completely fine with all of that. But I still think he's going to be great at the NFL level. I really, really do. And whoever gets him, I think he's going to be a star.
And
Number one, I almost put him at number 2 because I thought that I don't like it when guys opt out, and that's what Jamar Chase did. But Jamar Chase is an absolutely great wide receiver. Didn't play last season, and I think that people, for me, I would kind of hold that against him. But the more and more you watch him, the greater that he comes across. What he had 84 catches, 1,780 yards, setting an SEC receiving record for receiving touchdowns. Won the Biletnikoff Award. So, yeah, there's that. That's why he is number 1. It was kind of tough for me because I am the kind of person that I don't like it when guys opt out. And you could put Devontae Smith at 1. You could put Waddle at 1. I mean, it's almost 1A, 1B, and 1C. But for me, if you told me I had to choose, I'm going to go with the man that helped break records down there at LSU with Jamar Chase. So we're going to go through the rest of the draft as we roll along. I don't know if I'll do one every day, but we're going to do, I think I did quarterbacks the other day, but we'll do running backs, tight ends. We'll also do offensive linemen, linebackers, all of that. My top 5 as we go, and we'll see how it goes with the draft. So, yeah, some Alabama folks giving me grief over here in the chat room saying, I don't know about that, Rob. One comment says, better not be Pitts. He's a tight end. Yes, Pitts will be the number 1 tight end. So there's that. By the way, a couple things today. 4:15, they're racing in dirt for NASCAR in Memphis. Now, I'm a guy that likes to do some do a little bit of a little DraftKings stuff, and I don't know who can drive in the dirt. That's going to be interesting. I'll be watching that this afternoon at 4:15 when those guys put it on the dirt out there in NASCAR. You talk about drawing some attention. I mean, they're going to be on the short track at Bristol anyway, where everybody's running into each other anyway. They've had torrential rain, which is why they're racing today instead of yesterday. So the track's going to be moist, to say the least. And those guys are still getting out there, driving fast, turning left, etc. I guess I'm the casual NASCAR fan, but I'll be watching some of that today. In addition to that, you got the Elite 8 tonight for the men and the women. The men's matchups, I don't have them in front of me. I know UConn plays tonight for the women. Yeah. It's interesting. Last night, and I don't want to rip the Alabama folks too much, but I did say on this show that if Alabama doesn't hit the 3, they're not going to win very many games. They went 7 for 28, but shot 44% from the free throw line. And that's a number that will weigh on Coach Oates through the offseason. They just didn't do well at the line. They lost by 10 in overtime. They had an opportunity. If they would have hit 20 of those free throws instead of 25, or instead of 11, that game could have been different. Could have been a lot different. But Alabama, they went farther than I thought they would in some stretches. But man, UCLA in the Pac-12, man, they've got what, three of the final 8. That is solid. They had 4 of the final 9. It seems like we all underestimated the Pac-10 or Pac-12 or whatever. However many teams they've got now, I lose track. Interesting team in the mix. Fireball says he's rooting for Arkansas. Coach Musselman's got those guys doing some stuff, man. Blake's right. Baylor and Arkansas and Oregon State and Houston. How many people had any of those 4 going to the Final Four? I did have Baylor, and I actually had Arkansas playing Baylor. So that part of my bracket was right. The rest of it was hot dog water. Absolute hot dog water. Gonzaga looks like a professional basketball team now. They're just out there just nailing it. Anyway, we'll be watching that tonight. Watch my Twitter feed tonight. and you'll have some reaction to that. I'm at Rob Sounds Good. Podcast of the show will be up at about 5 o'clock today. Be sure to, if you missed the show, you can check it out there. Also, blog page is up at foxsportsradio1400.com. Everything on the Deshaun Watson saga is right there. In addition to the story about Augusta National, all kinds of cool stuff there for you. All right. We'll be back at it tomorrow on the rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. You guys rock over there, man. You guys rock over there, man. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow